So my wife and I are going to make a 3-gallon batch of Cherry Mead. And so here are the cherries. We've already weighed these. They weighed 10 pounds, 7 ounces. And we won't use all 10 pounds, 7 ounces. We're actually going to use 9 pounds. The general rule is it's 3 pounds of fruit per gallon of mead. And so we are going to juice these, and so we may reweigh them without the pits. And we might end up using all of them. It just depends what they weigh once we take the pits out. Also, we are using a Clover honey, and this is a really good honey. It's from Austin, Texas. We're close to Austin, and so we want to use a honey that's as close to local honey as we can get. Also, Clover honey is a lot more mild, and it really allows the fruit flavor to come through as opposed to orange blossom or wildflower honey. Okay, as far as chemicals, we're going to use pectic enzyme to help whenever it comes to breaking down the fruit. It'll help the mead to clear and be really nice in the bottle. Also, acid blend. It's mainly to make up for cherries not being that acidic. It just tastes better, and also it's nice on the palate. We're going to use bentonite to help to clear the mead, and sodium metabisulfite to clean everything. We also have yeast energizer. This is going to help the yeast to eat the sugar in the honey. Yeast nutrient, also going to help the yeast to be healthy. Wine tannin, and wine tannin simply helps with a nice feel on the palate. One-step cleaner, we found this to be a really great cleaner. This is the yeast that we're using. It is a fragrant yeast. This yeast is alcohol tolerant up to 18%, and it's a very, very strong yeast. We've never had any problem with it at all. It's very strong. And you want a strong yeast whenever you're making mead, because honey is a natural antibiotic, and the yeast needs to be strong in order to do well. Also, a bung, an airlock, a hydrometer, a test tube, and our 3-gallon carboy. We're going to use all these chemicals. What you would actually need, you absolutely would need for clearing. You will need pectic enzyme, and you will need bentonite. Whether or not you use acid blend or whether or not you use wine tannin, really that's optional. You really should use yeast energizer and yeast nutrient because it's going to help the yeast. But two things that are optional is the acid blend and the wine tannin. Okay, so a moment ago I said that the sodium metabisulfite was going to be used to clean. That's actually an inaccurate term. It's going to be used to sanitize. We use the one-step cleaner, which I'm about to mix, for cleaning, and the sodium metabisulfite is for sanitizing, which is a different process. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and try to do this with the camera in my hand. So you want to mix the one-step cleaner 1 tablespoon to a gallon of water. And with the sodium metabisulfite, it's 2 tablespoons per half gallon or 4 tablespoons per gallon. And as long as it doesn't get anything in it like wine or a lot of mead, you can use that up to 4 to 6 weeks. And so the sodium metabisulfite lasts for a while. And I have this 1-gallon jug of Ozarka that I use to put my sodium metasulfite in order to keep it for the next time I need to sanitize. The one-step cleaner, which is what we're mixing right now, you just need to pour it out after you're done the first time. As soon as I have this mixed, I'm going to make sure there's no granules left, and then we are going to clean and sanitize our equipment, and then after that we will start to mix. Sometimes whenever I'm mixing the one-step cleaner, I will get granules in the bottom, and so what I always do is I leave a little bit of water so that I can, you can see there is some in it, so that I can mix it like this, and so that way it will all mix well because you don't want a lot of granules in there at all. And if you have any in bottom, just scoop up some water and pour it back in. Okay, so now I'm going to take the hydrometer, I'm going to put it in the one-step cleaner, I'll shake it off, and then I'm putting it into the sodium metabisulfite, and that is cleaned and sanitized. Then the bung, same thing, I'm going to put it in the one-step cleaner, shake it off really well, and then after that into the sodium metabisulfite. And then the test tube, I'm going to have to get a lock or a wine thief or something else in order to put the water in there. And then the airlock, if you hold it like this, you can see it start to bubble. And so the cleaner is going in, as you can see. And so then you just need to make sure that it's on both sides. And then go ahead and get the cleaner to go around, and you can shake it out. And then it's the same thing, same process in the sodium metabisulfite. Just want to make sure that that's completely cleaned and sanitized. What you never want to do is to use a dishwashing detergent on any of your equipment because they have perfumes in them like this. You would not ever want to use Dawn or anything like that. Okay, so for the tube, I'm actually going to use this baster, and I want to clean it first before I do anything else. And so I run it through the one-step cleaner, make sure that it's nice and clean, and then after that, make sure that it is sanitized. And I always clean and sanitize all my equipment whenever I put it up as well. Alright, so now I'm going to use the baster to pull out some of the water, and then I'm going to put it in the tube. And then shake it up really well. And make sure it's clean. Then same thing with sanitizing. I want to make sure that the tube has plenty of sanitizer in it. And I can take it, shake it up really well, and then set it over here. Okay, so next I'm going to use the same baster in order to put water into the Carboy, which is right here. And so usually this takes about, I don't know, somewhere between 3 and 5 turkey baster full in order to make sure there's enough in there. Okay, so it's been shaken up and it has been emptied, and so it looks a lot better. And this is a glass Carboy. So now we're going to do the exact same process with the sodium metabisulfite. Okay, so now it has been cleaned and sanitized, and it is drying in the Carboy. Dryer, sorry. I'm not sure what the term is for this. It's just a Carboy dryer holder, I guess. I'm not sure if there's a technical term for it. But yeah, we'll let it sit for a little while because we want all the cleaner and sanitizer to drip out of it. We don't want any of that in it before we start the mead. Okay, so while we're waiting for it to dry, we're going to go ahead and first clean, of course. We're really going to clean these cherries, not in the one-step cleaner, just with water. And then after that, we're going to take out the pits and get them ready for juicing. Okay, so am pitting the cherries. I have a cutting board here. There are the pits. And just a few cherries left. It is taking a little while. It's been about 45 minutes. But after I have all the cherries pitted, then I'm going to put this through a juicer and we will get the juice out, and that's what will go into the must. Okay, so we finished pitting the cherries, and it took exactly 1 hour to finish, and we are going to put the cherries through the juicer. After that, we will take the juice and put it into the must, so making it a Melomel, actually. Earlier I said a cherry mead, but any mead that's made with fruit, except for a pie mint, which is made with grapes, is considered a Melomel. And so right when the must is, when it's still a mead, and of course we won't pitch the yeast until we put in the pectic enzyme, which I will go through in the video. But once the cherry juice is in the must, it is technically considered a Melomel, which is just a mead that has a fruit in it. Also, you don't have to do the process that I'm doing. I am juicing the cherries. Others boil cherries, they'll boil the cherries or even blueberries to get the juice out, and then they'll pour the fruit, all the blueberries or the cherries with the water into the must. Others will put their cherries in whenever they right before they pitch the yeast, and they'll just put the cherries in whole, or they'll pit them, but they don't even juice them. They just put them in, and it's a good way of doing it as well, because of course if you don't have a juicer, it's a great way to do it, and you get some tannin from the skin, from the cherry skin. Another way that I've seen is that some people making the Melomel will wait until the yeast is finished. And so whenever the mead has absolutely finished, it's done fermenting, and they'll put the fruit in then, and they'll wait 2 weeks, and then they'll rack over and just leave the fruit and the dead yeast behind. However, we made a lime Melomel, and we juiced the limes and put the juice directly in, and it was incredible. We really liked it. But that's, our preference. It's our taste. It's the way we like to do it. There are other ways to do this. Again, you could just put the cherries in some water, boil it, get some of the juice out, pour the water and the cherries in the must, and then pitch the yeast, of course, whenever the water cools down. Or you can put the fruit in, no matter what fruit it is, right whenever you pitch the yeast, or when the meat is finished, you can put the fruit in then. And so whatever technique that you like to do, it's absolutely fine. But we find this to be the best way to get the juice and the flavor out of the fruit. Okay, so this is how much juice we were able to get from the juicer. It's approximately a gallon, and we tasted of the cherry juice, and it was incredible. It tastes really, really, really good. And so hopefully by the end of fermentation, with the honey, it's going to have a really great flavor. We're excited about it, and man, it's really, really, really good. We would definitely go through that process again just to get the cherry juice by itself and to drink it. It was just really good. Really, really good. Okay, so next what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the Carboy ready. And it's pretty much dry at this point. And so it's been there about an hour and a half. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put the Bentonite in bottom. We're going to put a little spring water in with it. Then we're going to pour the cherry juice in. And then after that, we're going to make sure, actually I need to say this, while we are doing all of that, I'm going to have the bottles of honey in warm water, just to make it a lot easier whenever it comes time to pour it. And so, I'm not going to heat it. There are several different ways of processing the honey. You can boil it 45 minutes or so, and that's considered a bouchée. You can also heat it up with your spring water. And some people like to do that, and from what I understand, it helps the taste character a little bit. But we've had great luck just pouring the honey in the must as long as it's warmed in hot water where we can pour it easily. And it's been great that way. And so we're going to go with just pouring the honey in with the water and mixing it really well. Of course, the water and the cherry. So that's going to be the next step, and I will get everything ready. Okay, so we have the honey in really warm water, and that's just to thin it so it's going to be easy to pour. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put the bentonite, which is volcanic clay. We're going to use it to help to clear the mead. So as it's fermenting, it's going to help to clear the mead, or the melomel is what it'll be. So for 3 gallons, I'm going to put 1 tablespoon of bentonite into this 1 cup, and it's stainless steel. And I wanted to say earlier, everything that I have, I only use for mead. Like the baster that I was using earlier, I only use that for mead. You wouldn't want to grab a baster that you've been using for Thanksgiving and use that for your mead. So you want all dedicated equipment just for your mead, because you don't want it picking up other flavors, because that's going to change the way that your mead tastes. And also it could add some impurities to the mead that you don't want there. Okay, so this is the bentonite, and again, it has to go in first. It's going to go into the 3-gallon carboy first, and we're going to use 1 tablespoon. And after it heats up and it's no longer clumpy, then we're going to add it to the carboy. Okay, so we've heated up the bentonite. It's warm, it is not hot. And now I'm going to pour it through here. So now I'm going to pour in spring water. And I'm going to try to wash, of course, the bentonite down from the funnel. And I'm going to pour in about 1 gallon. Okay, that's probably a little less than 1 gallon. I mean, even if we still have some clumps in there, there's a lot of bentonite that mixed up really nicely, and so more than likely it's going to do its job. I've never had a problem with bentonite doing what it needs to do in order to clear. There's been a few times where I've had clumps sort of like this, not quite as bad, and it cleared beautifully, and so it'll be fine. But I'm going to give it a couple more swirls around just to make sure I can mix it as best as possible. Okay, so now we're going to pour in the cherry juice. So I'm going to do my best not to spill it. I did spill a little. Okay, so I lost almost none. I did lose a little, but it's not too bad. Okay, so we've put in the cherry juice, as you can see. The honey has been sitting in really warm water. And so now we're going to pour in the honey. And we are using 8 pounds, which is going to make this mead just a little on the sweet side. It'll be a medium. A dry, it would be about 7.2 pounds of honey. So we're just a little bit over what a dry mead would be. So let me try to not make a mess. And I'll put the lid back on this one. Of course, there is a little in there, but because we're using a little more Then the 7.2, it's okay if we have a little in the jar. And this honey smells amazing. And again, there are several different methods. Some people like to boil the honey with the water. Others like to make bouchées, which is just boiling the honey by itself for 35 to 45 minutes. And we've made a few bouchées and my wife really likes them. They're like a dessert wine. The ones that we made, they were pretty good. Okay. So now, the chemicals, I'm going to go ahead and put in some spring water to bring it up to the top. We want to get the must up to about this level. Okay, so at this point, I'm almost where I want to be. You can see, it's about 1.5 gallons. Less than it, what about a gallon? And if this is 3 gallons, that's about 1 gallon, 1.5 gallons. So before I go any further, I want to go ahead and put in my yeast nutrient, yeast energizer, wine tannin, and acid blend. And so with the acid blend, it tells you how much you're supposed to add on the package. So now I'm going to add the wine tannin and the acid blend. And the wine tannin and the acid blend is you add 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. So we're going to add 1.5. I have these measures that tell me what 1/2 teaspoon is. I've already put 1/2 teaspoon in, so I need 2 more. So there's 1, and there is 2. And I've already put 1/2 teaspoon of acid blend in. I'm going to make sure that none of the wine tannin is on the measurer. So now it's 2, and this is the final one. It's 3. Okay, so we have added the yeast nutrient, the yeast energizer, wine tannin, acid blend. Of course, the bentonite went in first, and so we're going to give it a good stir, and then after that, we're going to add in the pectic enzyme. Alright, so we're going to stir now everything together. This is extremely important, especially with you not heating the honey. Okay, so it is time to add the pectic enzyme. And so you need to add 1/2 teaspoon per US gallon. And so that means that we'll need 1.5 since we have 3 gallons. Okay, so we're going to put the funnel back on, and we're going to put the teaspoon in. I'm going to try to pour it right down the middle, and then 1/2 of that. Okay, and again, as close as I can to the middle. Added the acid blend. We have added the wine tannin. We've added the pectic enzyme, and all we have to do now is stir it. And with the wine tannin, we added 1.5 teaspoons, and we added 1.5 teaspoons of the acid blend, and the yeast nutrient, and the yeast energizer. So all we have to do now is to stir it. Add 1 more gallon of water. We have to let it set for 1 hour with the pectic enzyme, and then after that, we can pitch the yeast.
No.
Alright, so just to reiterate, we put 1.5 teaspoons of wine tannin in. We put 1.5 teaspoons of acid blend. We put 1.5 teaspoons of yeast energizer and 1.5 teaspoons of yeast nutrient and 1.5 teaspoons of pectic enzyme. This is about my 3rd or 4th time stirring it, and again, if you're not going to heat the honey with the water, then you definitely need to stir it several times. So what we have to do now is we have to let it set with the pectic enzyme for 1 hour before we pitch the yeast. Okay, so we transferred the mead to a little bigger carboy, and we were a little worried about foam over. And as you can see, we have the bung and the airlock on the mead, and this is 24 hours later, and it is fermenting wonderfully. We have a constant bubble in the airlock, which means that the yeast is doing a great job. And also we put the shirt over the carboy to keep all of the light out, and we'll update the video once the mead finishes and let you know how it tastes.